I'd like to call the December 5th meeting of the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors to order, and we'll begin with a pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I'll call for public comment on agenda items other than those dealing with development or rezoning applications. I will be accepting questions regarding the presentation of the preliminary budget in conjunction with a PowerPoint presentation that our treasurer will be making. Okay, we have minutes from November 28th. If there are no additions or corrections to those, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. And we have a series of bills. If there are no additions or corrections to those, I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills.
I'll move to pay the bills here as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. We have next on the agenda, this is the announcement of bids. This is for the sale of a bunch of used items from the township garage, some vehicles, some maintenance equipment. These were, Cheryl, these were advertised, correct?
They were advertised
on our website. Okay. And the bidding process was through a sealed bid, correct? And these were opened on November 29th, and these are the results. Although there's quite a list, many of the items we received no bids on, but I will list the ones that we did receive. First is a 1986 Chevy C20. We received one bid from Andrew Russell for $250. There was no minimum bid on that item. Mark, would you suggest that we do these individually?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Well, you can do them as a group, I think.
All right. Since we're just listing the high bid. The second is for a 1991 GMC dump truck. There was a minimum bid of $2,000. The bid, the high bid was $3,250, and that was from Andrew J. Pills. The next was a series of 5 different pieces of maintenance equipment. First was for a Coates tire balancer. The high bid there was $50. All of these bids were from Jim Schaefer. And Cheryl, I believe, just for the transparency in this, that Jim is a township employee, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but as I stated, these are all sealed bids. Coates tire balancer, $50. Lincoln gas welder generator, $50. A bandsaw for $10. An 8-foot truck cap for $20. And an AccuTurn tire machine for $50. And finally, a Troy-built snow blower, $65.75, and that bid was from Shirley Beebe. And I will entertain a motion to sell those items to the highest bidder, as I just mentioned.
Okay, I do have a question here, and I'm going to direct it to Mr. Shaw in regards to Jim Schaefer. By no means is this a matter of trying to make an issue out of something. This is okay that he is an employee buying this under sealed bid?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's on the record there, that it is okay. No ethics violation or anything. With that in mind there, I will make a motion to approve the sales of those items as listed.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Cheryl. This bid advertisement was only on our website, or did we actually pay for a Times News ad and go through a full kind of bid request?
Yes, we did. We did advertise in the Times News that we were going to be advertising online, that everything would be posted online as well. So we went through the proper procedure according to the second class code.
Well, I only asked, like, some of these items are going for such low prices. I mean, it was all in one ad then?
It was one ad, and all of the items that were over the amount dictated by the second class township code were individually listed in that ad in the Times News.
Yeah, there were a number of items that were available. Only some of them would have triggered the need to publicly advertise, so that we follow the procedures to ensure that those were properly done.
And then the website information went into more detail. Okay.
Okay.
And I believe only one of the ones above the threshold actually sold.
Oh, okay. All right, next we have the presentation of the 2018 preliminary budget.
I do have one more question.
Okay, all right.
Liaison to Public Works, so the items that we did not sell,
Yes.
what's
I'm
Fleet
going
Maintenance
to,
Bureau's?
I'll speak with Mr. Yatzer about this, but I would imagine that these will, and Cheryl, maybe he's even mentioned it to you, probably take these to a municipal auction.
Okay.
Where they get sold, not necessarily for the price that we would hope, but they do get sold for.
That's what we typically do. I think this was a new approach that Mr. Yatzer
Yes, because he
suggested.
felt that some of the prices that we were getting at the municipal auction were not sufficient or not proper. That we could be getting more for it. So we tried this.
Yeah.
A lot of them didn't sell, so we can get rid of the rest of the stuff in an auction.
Oh, at least he's
Give it a
trying
shot.
something new, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
All right, the preliminary budget. Mark, you want to start the presentation?
Okay, thank you. All right, the much anticipated budget presentation. Okay, we'll start with the revenue. We've got a grid here. It shows the 2018 budget, the 2017 budget for comparison purposes, and our forecast of where we're going to end up 2017. So we've got a comparison of the three sets of numbers. Real estate taxes are actually off just a little bit from the 2017 budget going into 2018, but it's down from the 2017 forecast. There are a couple of things that play into that. One is the collection rate for real estate taxes. We never assume that we collect 100% of the taxes because not everybody pays in the current year. The other side of the coin is also, too, we never know when taxes then become delinquent how many they're going to get in any subsequent year. So they end up being conservatively estimated going into the budget, and that's why we're actually showing a decrease in revenue from real estate taxes. The other taxes are primarily the LST and the EIT, the local services, and the earned income tax. There's a couple other little taxes in there, the most significant of which is the realty transfer tax. Realty transfer tax is driven by home sales. You never know how they're going to sell from year to year. So we go with a conservative number there as well. We beat it by over $100,000, actually almost $200,000 this year. But if next year going to be the same, who knows? Licenses and permits, these are primarily building permit fees. There are a variety of other licenses too, and permits, right-of-way permits, things like that. Not a huge number, and we're up a little bit from last year's budget, but down a little bit from this year's actual. In the grand scheme of things, they're all sort of kind of the same. Fines are generally for things that go through district court. This year, the number's much higher because the Granada settlement is in there. So there's $150,000 of revenue that we wouldn't ordinarily see on an ongoing basis. I increased it a little bit from this year because for whatever reason, we're getting more fines through the DJ's offices, and I guess it's just one of those things where you got more people doing things they're not supposed to. Interest and rents, we're down on the budget. That's because we, first of all, have a smaller rental income from the newly revised lease for the sewer authority space, which was approved, I think, at the last meeting. If not, there was a meeting before. And then also, too, the other big component there is franchise fee. This is the money that Spectrum pays us for use of the private right-of-way. Two things going on there. One is people just moving away from cable TV to satellite or whatever, and then people cutting the cord altogether, and there's no alternative, but we don't get any franchise fees from either the satellite TV or people cutting the cord and going to streaming devices. So we in the past had about $725,000 worth of revenue forecast for the franchise fee, and I reduced it by about $125,000. It's we're seeing less revenue.
Excuse me, Mark?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, you mentioned the reduced revenue from the sewer authority lease. Just want to clarify for the audience. We're not reducing the lease amount from the sewer authority. The sewer authority is actually leasing less space from us. So that's what that reduction in rent from the sewer authority is coming from, is less space, not reducing the cost.
Right, right.
Just want to clarify that.
And that was all detailed in the lease that was approved recently. Yes. Other income is up slightly from the 2017 budget, in part because we've had increased cost for streetlight electricity. It goes hand in hand that the streetlight assessments go up because that's just really a pass-through. Whatever we have to pay for street lighting, the residents ultimately have to reimburse us for that. There may be some other slight increases there for mill fare as well. They've been doing very well since they've been taking credit cards, and the word gets out that they have decent mulch, so there's a bit more revenue there. Some of these I've discussed to some extent. Real estate taxes in total are up slightly due to a slight increase in assessed value. It's like $20 million in assessed value change. Other taxes are down slightly due to earned income tax. We talked about the interest and rent. Grants were up due to liquid fuels, DNR grant for the Millcreek Golf and Learning Center, and an anticipated grant for Asbury Road Bike Lane Extension. That particular project will appear in the capital budget, and if this grant does not happen, at least in the current form, the bike lane extension won't happen either. Grant money is always tied directly to items, when they're tied to items in the capital budget, if the grant doesn't come through, then we don't we're not going to necessarily do the project. We talked about the other revenue. Okay, in terms of expenses, now some of the comparisons here get a little bit more difficult because the reorganization has jumbled some of the numbers around where the alignments are a little bit different. So trying to do a apples to apples year to year is a little bit more difficult. But we're seeing an increase in the budget for administrative expense and down, and actually increased from the actual expense. Engineering and zoning is up from actual. A big portion for the increase there is engineering has a lot of the capital projects, and if they don't complete the capital projects in a particular year, yes, their spending in the current year is going to be down. In this case, there were about $320,000 or more of carryover projects that were in the engineering budget that didn't get spent this year, was in the budget, and they're still in the budget for next year because they still need to get done. Primarily the MS4 project and the completion of the comp plan. Building maintenance, once again, they had some capital that they didn't spend for various improvements. Recycling services their actual is down because there was a piece of equipment that was a $500,000 grant item. They still have not got word on the second half of the grant, so that is a project that's still waiting. If they had spent that money, they would be much closer to where their budget would be, or this year's budget would be down, because once again, the grant money is carrying over to this year. Public safety is the police departments primarily. One classification change is the Amounts that go to the fire departments is now, I've now included that in the public safety area. It had been in the EMA area in the past. So we see a big bump up from budget to budget. Also, too, there's increases for wages and minimum municipal obligation for the police pension that also attribute to the increase in costs. EMA and code enforcement, one of the elements of change here is the combination of code enforcement, which some of those individuals were in the zoning and code enforcement area in the past. Now they're in EMA. Also, too, they have some more capital requests this year relative to last year. Streets, the primary mover there is an increase in spending for road repair. We had spent about $1.2 million this year, and we are forecasting almost 2.295 for next year. We're able to do this because, one, we've accumulated a balance in our state liquid fuels fund. The state liquid fuels fund amount we'll receive next year is going up, and so therefore it's also been identified as a primary concern of the residents. So the idea is to try to do more paving, and that means probably contracting more paving. This is the first year probably in a long time that we've had done contract paving, and it worked well, and we'll probably continue to increase that so that we can continue to increase the mileage that we pave every year. Recreation, a portion of the increase there is in various projects that they've got going on. I know that there's a playground installation. We had purchased the equipment last year, didn't have the budget for installation, so now it's going to be installed in the next year. Also, too, there's improvements to the tennis courts on Asbury Park. The big change there is the increased cost of street lighting. And those two, like you said, go hand in hand. Tax collectors pretty much so flat. The biggest thing that would change there is if we had change in postage rates, or if we had a big change in the amount of our EIT, LST monies, because Berkheimer charges us a fee to do that. All right, we talked about this, but healthcare expenses, and this is more broad brush for the change, increased almost $500,000 from the 2017 budget. Police wages show a 3% increase. That's per contract, and that's about $156,000. We put an anticipated cost increase for the AFSCME contract wages. That contract still is not settled, but we need to anticipate something. Paid time off payouts. When employees retire, they have over time have accumulated sick leave and vacation time. When they retire, those are paid out to them, some on a one-to-one basis, some on a staggering basis. But we've got an increase of about $110,000. We've got a series of retirements next year, some of which people have accumulated some significant monies. So that's an overall increase. Our spending for road maintenance next year is increasing by $775,000 due to increased liquid fuels funds and drawing down to that fund balance. And then the electricity cost increased by about $138,000. Also, too, not on the bullet points, but our MMO cost increased year over year by about $170,000. That's due in part because our actuary, every 2 years, we are required by the state to have the various pension plans and the another section called the other post-retirement benefits, post-employment benefits, revalued. And in that process, the actuary recommended that, one, we adopt a lower rate of return, estimated rate of return. It had been at 7.5%, which is pretty standard for pension plans. and they recommended that we lower that rate of return to 7%, long-term rate of return. It makes sense. Yields on bonds, which make up about 40% of the total pension fund, are small. We don't have any better advantage than anybody else. Interest rates are low, and then so everything else has got to come from the stock market. Well, that helps, and the stock market's been up, but you can't guarantee that kind of return is going to happen year over year. So it's a conservative approach to take a smaller long-term rate of return. Then they also adopted a variety of other changes: mortality tables, inflation rates. All these factors get factored in, and that's why they're actuaries and do all this number crunching. But when it's all said and done, it increases the liability for pension cost, and that has to be funded. And so applying those new assumptions increased our cost about $100,000 on the police plan and about $70,000 on the general employees plan. Okay, in terms of the capital budget, it's split out between where the funding sources are. We've got the general fund, that's the general operating account of the township. Liquid fuels is money that the state provides us from the gasoline tax. Grants are grant monies that are applied for and for various projects. And then a portion of the real estate taxes are dedicated to public improvements. It amounts to about $592,000 a year for the upcoming year. And so we have to allocate the funds across the various sources of funding. So for next year's budget, we've got $1,712,000 coming from the general fund, $2,295,000 from the liquid fuels, almost $1 million from grants, and then $587,000 from the public improvements. And then below that, I have what the amounts were from the various funds for the previous budget year, this budget year. There's the actual publication has a list of all the projects. I'm not going to go through them item by item. Just a little bit, some quick bullets here. ADA compliance in the 2018 budget is about $152,000. Road maintenance increased by $850,000. There's some carryover capital, $250,000 for the Millcreek Golf and Learning Center. Windrow turner. This is a piece of equipment that they turn the piles of brush and whatnot that they've chopped up. If you don't do that, one will ultimately catch fire because they spontaneously combust, and plus two, it helps create a usable product which they can then sell. And then the MS4 permit application is $200,000. Public safety capital costs include costs for the countywide first responders radio system, and then also the capital budget includes replacement costs of equipment, radios, tasers, things like that. Rather than waiting until they're at the end of their useful life, the idea now is to replace these on an annual basis, rolling basis, so that you take a smaller hit each time and you maintain usable technology going forward. That hasn't necessarily been the philosophy in the past, and so we've tried to get that thinking moving forward. And that is pretty much so the budget presentation.
Any questions on that from those present?
Real quick, Mark, bottom line, you're not recommending a tax increase for 2018, correct?
No, there's no tax increase in the proposed budget as presented.
Just to hit on a couple of items that typically draw the most curiosity from residents, and Mark touched on most of these. The $500,000 for the recycling center for a piece of equipment, a new rooftop unit under building maintenance for $80,000. There's $120,000 remaining in the budget to complete the comprehensive plan, as Mark mentioned. $137,156 for ADA compliance, the $400,000 for Asbury, $200,000 for the MS4 completion. We have over $100,000 for the next generation radio system. That's the effort through the county communications center. We have almost $371,000 in the budget for 2 new dump trucks with equipment. As Mark mentioned, $1,850,000 for paving, and also, as Mark mentioned, the playground equipment at Asbury, $51,000 for the installation, $40,000 for the renovation of the tennis courts, and $250,000 for the renovation of the Millcreek Golf and Learning Center. With that, I'll entertain any comments or questions from those present. Any comments from the board?
None from me.
Okay, Mark, you did a nice job. Appreciate the detail, and it's always nice to be able to present a budget that does not involve a tax increase, and particularly when we're talking about the number of projects and the number of new capital budget items that this budget includes. Okay, with that, we have the prepared statement regarding a motion. With regard to a budget for the 2018 calendar year, I move that the minutes of this meeting include the following. For approximately the last 60 days and under the direction of the Board of Supervisors, work has been undertaken to prepare a proposed budget for the 2018 calendar year. A draft of the proposed and preliminary budget has now been prepared and is ready and available for public inspection. Public notice of the preparation and availability for inspection of the preliminary 2018 budget has been advertised in the December 5th, 2017 issue of the Erie Times News. The preliminary and proposed budget shall be available for public inspection for the next 20 days in the office of the Secretary at the Millcreek Township Municipal Building from 8 a.m. until 4:30 p.m., Mondays through Fridays, and at the Millcreek Township Police Department on weekends and holidays from December 5th, 2017 until December 27th, 2017. At the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors beginning at 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, December 27th, 2017, and after making such revisions as it deems necessary, the Board of Supervisors intends to adopt the budget for the calendar year 2018. That's a motion, and I'll entertain a second.
Just to clarify, Mr. McGrath,
Yes.
we will also be posting the budget on our website, correct?
Yep. Correct? Yes.
Just wanted clarification, this is a presentation, not a final budget. This is why we have the public comments and public review of this in case they have comments to make at our meeting on the 27th.
And if any corrections or changes need to be made.
Okay, so it's presentation only.
Yes.
I'll second the motion to post the budget for public inspection.
Okay. Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next we have the, as Mark referenced several times, the minimum municipal obligation pension approval for 2017 for both the police and general employees pensions. Mark?
Yes. To a certain extent, we've approved these in the past through the payment of the bills, but there's such significant numbers that it should still be brought up at a general meeting. The total minimum municipal obligation for the police plan for 2017 was $1,304,786. We received $532,237.39 in state aid under Act 205 for funding of the pension plan, and that was previously remitted in the beginning of October to the trustee PNC Bank. And the bills that were approved earlier include a payment of $772,348.61 to complete our obligation of the $1,000,003. For the general employees, the total minimum municipal obligation for 2017 was $1,160,451. We received state aid of $513,000 $884.38, and that was previously remitted with the other payment for the police plan. The bills that were approved earlier today include a check for $646,656.62, which then comprises the total $1,160,541.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Is there a motion in regard to approving the MMO for 2017?
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Thank you, Mark. And next on the agenda, the announcement of new or amended ordinances under review. We are reviewing our current burning ordinance, and we hope to have some revisions to that. Do you think we'll have it by the end of the year?
I think the plan is to have that ready for a vote at the December 27th meeting.
Okay.
So it'll be publicly available here in the next week or so.
Sounds good. Next, we have Resolution 2017 R50. This is a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20 and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. Mark?
Okay, this is one request is from you, Brian.
Yep.
For the driver's certification of violations from 2006 to 2008. That's under records category PS-4 from the PA Historical Society's record classification. Retention year is 3 years, so we're clearly far beyond the retention period.
Just as a clarification or an explanation, I used to be prior to us hiring a human resource director, I was the keeper of the records for the random testing for our commercial driver's license drivers, our CDL drivers. And so I still had in my office records from 2006 through 2008. I checked with Diane Lyons, and she suggested that those be destroyed and go through the process.
Okay, and then the second one is the recurring Millcreek Police Department dash cam videos. These are not related to any sort of investigative procedures, so therefore therefore all they do is take up space on the server, and so they are asking once again to do permission to delete these non-investigative dash cam videos.
Okay.
Mark, is there an error on the dash cam video to be deleted between 12/5/2017 and 12/27/2017? Is that 2016?
05 and
Yeah. It would be
Days
starting
that haven't
today
happened
through the end of the month,
Yeah.
close to it.
well, the dates on the request to delete them, is that prospective? Because it's from today until the end of the month.
Yeah.
So we're doing that prospectively. We give them permission to destroy them
Yes.
as necessary.
Right now, so that runs into the next meeting.
Okay. Is that the way we've been doing it?
It's been retrospectively in the past, but I don't know if this is
It just seems maybe it's an error procedurally, because isn't it usually destroy records that have already been
These haven't
collected and maintained for a
These
certain
haven't
number
been
of time?
generated yet.
I would move to table this till we get more
All right, that's-
clarification from Chief Height.
Okay, that makes sense.
okay.
We can wait till the next meeting.
Right.
They can store them if that's
Or
necessary.
we could act, or no, it'd be under the same resolution there, the one that you have, Brian. No,
Yes.
we'll take them all together, I agree. Second.
All right, so.
Second the table on that.
Okay. Mr. Groh?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
Oh, yes.
All right. And I'll vote
Again, I
yes.
think maybe it's a typo error. Just want to make sure we clarify that with Chief Height before we take
Okay.
action.
Next, we have Resolution 2017 R51. This is well, no, wait a minute. Okay, we'll have to do all of them then at the same time, because they're all part of the same resolution.
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay,
getting at.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, Resolution 2017 R51 is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Millcreek Township, Erie County, Pennsylvania, prohibiting the location of a Category 4 licensed facility within the township. And I'll refer to our solicitor on that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we could, just turning back to the burning ordinance real quickly. I didn't realize you were going to move on so quickly, but Mr. Exley is here just to give a brief description of what the changes of that to the ordinance would be, and I think that's probably important to do that real briefly if we could.
We can do
kind
that.
of setting it up.
We didn't make any, we didn't take any action on that, but if you'd like to make an explanation, go ahead, Matt.
Sure. Gentlemen, the burning ordinance has been a topic of discussion in our office for quite a while now. One of the major issues that we have seen in our office with the current ordinance is it's very confusing, not only to residents, but anybody else who may read it. There's a lot of different sections in it with many different numbers, and oftentimes folks get confused. We've even had in the past people trying to argue that a cooking fire is okay by cooking hot dogs over a set of shingles that are burning. So we wanted to simplify this for our residents and still meet in with our requirements through the DEP. So basically we have simplified the ordinance, cut it down. There will be no longer burning of yard waste allowed on Saturdays, as had been in the past, and have caused many issues across the township. Basically, the kinds of burning that will be allowed now are cooking fires, specifically with outdoor fireplaces, barbecue grills, or barbecue pits, as well as recreational fires, which have requirements on them, including attendance, extinguishment availability, distances away from structures and property lines, and also the burning of clean, dry, seasoned wood. The normal things that were not allowed in the previous ordinance are continued to not be allowed, including burning leaves. We've had a problem with that over the last week. Several people have been out there burning leaves, and it really creates an issue across the entire neighborhood. So we feel that this ordinance is a lot simpler to follow, not only for our residents, but our police officers and code enforcement officers, and that will allow us to get better compliance because folks will actually understand the ordinance. We also intend to, and we have been, putting in the Millcreek magazine information regarding this ordinance and the proposed changes so that folks are aware and able to enjoy fires, enjoy cooking, enjoy s'mores with their kids in a legal way.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any questions?
One for me.
All right, then back to Resolution 2017 R51. Mark.
Yes, thank you. As part of the recent state budget process, and as I think a means of increasing revenues for the state, changes were made to the casino laws, and it was Act 42 of 2017 authorized the placement of 10 Category 4 casinos within the Commonwealth. And a Category 4 casino was one that would have not less than 300 slot machines and not more than 750 slot machines, and potentially up to 40 table games. Category 4 casinos cannot be located within a 25-mile radius of an existing casino except where the applicant is the owner of that existing casino. They did provide in Act 42 that municipalities are authorized to prohibit the location of Category 4 casinos within its boundaries, and the municipalities have until the end of this year to pass such a resolution and submit their resolution to the Pennsylvania Gaming Control Board. If they fail to do that, then the municipality is forever kind of foreclosed from prohibiting these Category 4 casinos within their municipal boundaries. The municipality, however, is allowed to revisit the issue and decide to allow such facilities within their boundaries. But once they do that in the future, they can't go back and then prohibit them in the future. This also, I should note that there was a provision in Act 42 that allowed certain forms of gaming at what's called qualified airports. This authorization for the municipality to prohibit Category 4 casinos does not cover those types of, that type of gambling that would be allowed at a qualified airport, which from what I could gather from the 900 and some page document, is kind of internet-based gaming, tablet-type gambling.
So this resolution would not prohibit the location of the Category 4 casino at our airport?
No, the Category 4 casino is different than what's allowed at an airport.
Okay. All right.
So this resolution would take advantage of the a provision in the act that allows the municipality to prohibit Category 4 facilities within the boundaries. That would not cover what's otherwise allowed in an airport.
That's a whole separate,
It's a whole separate
animal.
provision.
Okay.
You know, it'd be funny is if they have set up some sort of betting, gambling thing here where how long it's going to be before the big planes start landing there. Wouldn't that be neat to have something?
Over-under?
Over-under, you know, like the sports betting. When will it happen?
So the resolution at hand is a form resolution that was provided through PSATs. They had sent some documentation around it advising the municipalities that they have this option but to exercise the option, they must do it this year and get it to the PA Gaming Control Board by the end of this year.
Okay.
Okay,
Any questions from the board?
I'm on board with it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion regarding resolution 2017 R51.
Yeah, I'll move to approve resolution 2017 R51.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Thank you, Mark. Although we are going right back to you, this is for the MOU between LECOM and the Millcreek Township Police Department.
Yes, this is a memorandum of understanding between the township, the Millcreek Township Police Department, and LECOM. It relates, it essentially formalizes the jurisdictional and operational relationships between the township, the police department, and LECOM and its police and security staff. LECOM is authorized under state law to have private police officers, which they have done, and so this covers the relationship and interactions of our police department and the LECOM police and security folks on their properties, kind of how criminal investigations are to be handled, when the handoff occurs, and preservation of evidence and things like that. This type of operational things that it makes sense to have some understanding between the entities ahead of time. It clarifies how mental health commitments are to be handled at the Millcreek Community Hospital between the LECOM police folks and the Millcreek Police Township. It can be terminated on 60 days notice, and there's nothing in here that limits the authority in any way of our police department. So this is a document that Chief Height had negotiated with LECOM. I worked with him on the language, and it's something that he would recommend the board approve.
Okay. Is there a motion in regarding the MOU?
Yes, I'll move to approve this memorandum between Millcreek Township and LECOM.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Grow?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. And finally, we'll go back to you one more time, Mark. This is in regard to the tax collector lease. This is a document that's what is becoming the township's more or less standard lease agreement, correct?
Correct. This is a lease agreement between the township and the Millcreek Township tax collector. As the tax collector pointed out at the last meeting, she had been operating essentially without a lease for some time, so this would correct that situation. It has a 4-year term, has provisions with respect to rent, which is then set off in recognition of the need or the intent or desire of the township to have her in this building. So essentially it's rent-free from the tax collector's perspective, and it's essentially our standard form lease that we've been using here in the last couple of instances when we've started getting these leases squared away.
Okay. Just as a matter of record here, of course, 2 meetings ago, I think we approved the one for the Millcreek Sewer Authority, a reduction in the size of their rent. MPS, I think, of course, they're going to be expanding as the offices move around, so we're going to have to revise that lease.
Correct.
The one for Berkheimers, is that up to date, do we know? That might be one we need to investigate, although that's not going to change. I'm believing they're still going to be here. Maybe the lease is, maybe it's still valid, maybe it doesn't need to be updated, but I think we need to check into that one too, just to make sure we're doing the right thing.
And then we'll have all of the tenants
We'll have them all
covered.
up to date and correct then, so.
Yeah, because we just did the Erie County for the
Right,
district
for the
justice
district
office.
judge's
Right.
office, and we've got Ms. Craker's lease taken care of here, so.
Okay.
MPS will be coming up soon whenever we get that taken care of, so.
All right, is there a motion in regard to the tax collector lease?
Yes, I will move to approve the township's lease agreement with the Millcreek tax collector.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Mr. Grow?
Vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. Communications. Mark.
One item. We received an email from our actuary, Mackinac Benefits Group, with regard to the valuation of the other benefit, post-employment benefits plan. The question being, there's a new standard, a new Government Accounting Standards Board standard coming out, GSAB number 75. It needs to be adopted for plan years starting after January 1st, 2017. You can do a variety of things. Adopt it early. You can wait until the 2019 valuation and adopt it, which time you'll have to adopt it, and you could do some hybrid stuff in between. Because this is primarily just a financial reporting item, it has no real bearing on the, because we don't fund the benefit plan other than through current general fund operations. I would recommend that we adopt the GASB 75 recommendation that the actuary has proposed, and just adopt early and move forward.
Okay. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Yeah, I will make that motion to approve that action.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
do need Public comment.
But yes,
comment,
we
yeah.
do need public comment on that one since that one's not on the agenda. Okay, Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Anything else, Mark?
No, nothing further.
All right. John?
Okay, well, on the agenda here, we have one here for a volunteer appointment request from the EMA office. I see Matt's at our table there. Can we just move to Matt and then come back to me?
Certainly.
Can we do that? Let's do that.
Matt?
Gentlemen, we received an application for a volunteer appointment for Nicholas Bannister. Lives on Evergreen Trail. He has kind of stepped up over the summer and offered to help us over several events that we had down on Presque Isle, and actually showed up during our tornado and offered his assistance and was on the spot allowed to volunteer for that. He has first responder, emergency medical technician training, emergency management training, including the incident command system, the FEMA courses, and he has currently works for Erie Insurance, has passed our normal Pennsylvania State Police background check, and has all of his paperwork in order. So I'd like to ask for permission to use him as a duly enrolled volunteer for the Emergency Operations Center.
Okay.
Just a quick comment. We appreciate his volunteer spirit and helping us out in these times, and people that volunteer in these times of crisis and emergency, we really appreciate whatever they can do to help us out. So with that in mind, I'm going to make a motion to approve the appointment of Mr. Bannister.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes.
Okay.
Okay. Back to you.
Yes, okay, this comes from Chief Scott Height for the meeting for today. He's asking for permission for 3 officers to attend TASER instruction training sponsored by the Mercyhurst University Municipal Police Academy. The training is scheduled for March 27th and 28th in 2018. The registration cost for this is $1,095. There are no other anticipated expenses related to the training. This was previously approved for the same training by the board in September. However, the class was filled at that time, so this is an updated date, and it looks like they will be included in that class.
Okay.
So I make that in the form of a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groh?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
Okay, and I understand they're looking for volunteers to be tased. So.
Well.
Okay, moving on. The Giving Tree, we have it out there, and I think it was mentioned at the last meeting. And of course, by the time this gets out on the air, and hopefully, I believe our media is going to help us out with this. We still have some envelopes there with multiple children on it, 2 to 5 children, and it would be great if somebody or a group of people could get together, an office or somebody, and purchase Christmas gifts for these children. These are all kids of Millcreek School District that unfortunately, due to financial circumstances, may not have a nice Christmas like the rest of us get. Then one other thing here, or actually a couple other things here. The new calendars are coming out. I think Judy's up. Did I take your thunder on this? I just
No, go ahead.
Judy Zelina told me these are coming out. We'll be mailing out on December the 8th. So great artwork in this as always. And I think we always get an award for this from PSATs.
Typically?
Yes, we typically do.
Jinx us on that.
Great,
Yes.
yeah. I'm going to take that back. But anyway, great photography in this here and very informative. Appreciate the work that Judy, Zelina, Jessica Stutzman, and Carol Perello put into working on this, and of course our printer, Printing Concepts Company. Just one other thing here, this is something to think about here. It's in regards to a new fireworks law. You'll be hearing more about it, but just want people to know in advance. There's going to be some changes onto the state law, and it's going to somewhat superimpose things over our ordinance here. We will have more information on that, but I'm just giving you a little something about it there to think about in regards to fireworks. And it may not be as simple as everybody thinks it might be, since the state has relaxed some of their laws. So, but there are conditions on it. So that'll be coming up probably next year, early next year we'll be talking, right, Matt?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. That's all I have there. Thank you.
And John, you mentioned the giving tree, and the only thing that we've changed, you did mention this previously, but if someone is going to come in and take a card off the tree, we do ask you to sign up at the receptionist desk so that we can keep track of which cards are taken and which ones remain. So we appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay, we have a request from Ashley Marsteller in our Parks and Rec Department in regard to the seasonal, which would be our winter classes beginning in January. This is a very extensive list, so I won't go through everyone's name and position, but this is available in the both in Parks and Rec office and in the administrative offices if someone would like to take a look at it. But with that, I would move approval of the winter season part-time employees for recreation.
Yes, I will second the appointment of those 50 part-time, 50
Okay.
employees for the Parks Department.
Okay. We have a motion to second. Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. We did have an executive session on November 30th with our solicitor. We have a training request from the traffic department. This is from Dick Whitbread. He would like to the board to consider sending Joe Bizzaro to attend an LTAP class for conducting sign retroreflectivity inspections. On Thursday, February 8th, 2018, the course will be held at Mercer County from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and there is no cost for the township. It would just require the use of the township vehicle on the time. So I would move approval of that.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead there, John.
Okay, with motion and second, Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes. And John's going to do that one. That's all I have.
Okay,
yes.
John, okay.
Mr. Morgan?
Were you even before the Pictometry Connect GIS training?
Yeah, that's what I didn't know if you had that.
Oh, Mr. Morris is present. Rick, do you want to
gonna-
go over that, or
Going to do the, well, this one's from Gail.
Gail, yeah,
from Gail?
Yes.
yeah. But I don't see it on the agenda.
That's the first item.
Yeah, that was the training.
Oh, okay, I'm
That's the
sorry, I'm
administration.
sorry, okay.
Right.
Oh, I apologize.
Okay.
That's right.
Apparently, I have a request from Gail Jers requesting permission to attend the Pictometry Connect GIS training, which will be on December 14th, 2017, from 1 to 4 at the County Public Safety Building in Summit Township. There's no cost for the training. I would move to approve permission for Gail to attend this training.
Right. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Grove?
Vote yes.
Morgan?
I vote yes.
I vote yes.
And apparently Mr. Morris is here to request attendance for his staff as well to attend the same training. Rick, is that right?
That's correct.
And Rick's requesting that Ann Sokol, Emma George, Denise Bizzaro, Rob Dunikowski, and Julie Maggio all be given permission to attend this training. There are 2 classes that day on December 14th. That would be Julie and Denise would be attending the morning class from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Ann, Emma, and Rob will be attending the afternoon class from 1 to 4 p.m. There's no charge for this training. And I'll just say that I think this is a very useful training for all of our staff to attend regarding the pictometry and GIS software that the county makes available to our staff. And it's very important that our staff be up to speed on this technology and how it works. And I think it's a great opportunity for them to better utilize the products the county makes available to us.
Okay, so was that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second regarding the training?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Mr. Grove?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
But yes.
And I vote yes. Anything else, John? You?
Real quick, I think we all got an email late yesterday from County Council Clerk Doug Smith requesting input from municipalities regarding a proposed driver's registration fee. Yeah. Just for the folks in attendance benefit. A few years ago, the state passed what's called Act 89. It was a highway funding bill for state infrastructure. Part of that authorized counties to institute a vehicle registration fee of $5 locally. That fee would be collected and then returned to the county government to prioritize transportation projects. Apparently, the county will be voting on this week. That's all Mr. Smith reported to us in his email. Wanted to know if municipalities were in favor or against the measure. Gentlemen, I can honestly say I think it's going to take more than a few hours this morning for us to determine if we're in favor of this particular action by the county and how they intend to distribute these funds. But that was a communication we received. Just wanted to bring it up for the board's discussion.
And we just heard about this yesterday through an email. I have no. You get any recollection of this?
Well,
none of us did, I believe.
I just got the email this morning because you forwarded it to me.
you.
I didn't receive it yesterday.
I will say we, Millcreek Township, we do sit on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is a board of primarily the urban area municipalities. There has been ongoing discussion about this fee at for the MPO. But this is the first that municipalities have actually been informed the county is seriously considering it and apparently intend to propose it this week.
Right. But the irony, I think, when there was a discussion earlier today before the meeting was that the $5 fee per vehicle, the money collected from that really doesn't cover anything here because the municipalities don't own any bridges or anything like that.
Well, the county does.
The
county does. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the county doesn't.
Right.
Right.
The townships do.
Right. That's what I'm meant to say there. Yeah.
Right. And there are counties in Pennsylvania that do own infrastructure, own roadways, own bridges. Erie County does not own infrastructure. So I would have to look more closely at the resolution for how they're going to prioritize these funds, how they be distributed before I can make any kind of recommendation or suggest we take action on a recommendation.
When was the vote on that tonight?
I honestly don't know. Is tonight the county council meeting?
Did they meet on Tuesday night? I really can't remember if it's this week or not.
Yeah, and that wasn't indicated in the email either as far as when it was going to be proposed or what date they were going to vote on it. So
I'm very concerned how that was just being, all of a sudden in the, I want to say the middle of the night, but just overnight.
What do they think this is, the tax reform or what?
Well, the election's over, might as well push this.
Yeah.
Anything else, John?
That's all I got.
That's it. Lily?
The McDowell Honors College Executive Board has been in talks with the Erie Community Foundation, trying to plan a large-scale community service project for its members to work on. And also, the McDowell Girls Athletic Club is also hosting a Christmas party for the families at the Mercy Center for Women next week. And the McDowell boys basketball team is hosting the second annual Marsh & Marsh Roundball Classic this weekend, which brings in some of the best teams from the area.
Great. Thank you, Lily.
Thank you.
Can I, wait, I just want, before Mark takes over, Lily, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you and I were talking before the meeting. What colleges have you applied to? I'm really glad to hear this,
Okay.
What
I've applied
universities?
to Villanova, Westminster, Allegheny. There's 9 of them.
9 of them.
Denison, Gannon, Mercyhurst,
Yeah.
Chatham, Niagara, and Nazareth. I
Yep.
believe that's all of them.
So that there'll be a bidding war.
Yes.
There'll be a bidding
And
war
there's
on
still
her.
9 more to come.
Yes, yes, so she's gonna be like a free agent for
Stay
you
tuned.
over there. Anyway, that's great, that's
Well,
best
best of
wishes
luck.
on your selection,
Good luck.
whoever you
Thank you.
pick, yeah.
Mark?
Lily, as you've learned, whenever John says he's not putting you on the spot, he's putting you on the spot.
Okay, speaking of that, Mark.
The only thing I have is just to report that the MS4 contract that we submitted to the vendor that we had selected, we submitted our form, kind of consultant contract. I believe they signed it without changes, and you guys had approved authorizing Brian to execute that if that is what they did. So we'll be getting that finalized here and getting them to start hitting the ground running.
Sounds good. Cheryl?
I have the right to know report from November. We had 6 requests, 2 were granted, 2 were denied, 2 were partially granted and denied. All were filled electronically via email, and it took approximately 15 hours.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Engineer Morris, anything else?
Nothing.
Matt, anything else? EMA?
I would like to bring up, although this will probably, this event will be over by the time that this airs, but we anticipate that we'll have our first snow event this in the next couple days, is what they're forecasting. And I just kind of wanted to remind residents of the parking prohibitions on our township roadways during snow events that allows our streets department to get out there, clear the streets, and do the job that they need to do. Any kind of snow or ice event that falls, parking is prohibited on any township or state roadways within the township, so that our folks can get out there and do that. If our employees go out there and find vehicles that are parked, they'll leave a notice. They have a certain amount of time to remove those, and then they
8
can be
hours.
towed.
8 hours to get them out of there, or else we'll get them out of there.
We'll take them out.
Exactly.
Yes. Thank you, Matt.
Yes,
And just as a quick reminder along the same subject, we also urge residents to put stakes along the edge of their property, particularly if you don't have the mailboxes on your side of the street. Every 50 feet, a 4-foot stake, about a foot back from the edge of the pavement. That will help our plow drivers know where the edge of the road is if we should happen to get a heavy snowfall.
And Mr. Chairman, we should also probably point out, although this event doesn't look like it's going to be that big, the clearing of fire hydrants is the property owner's responsibility for where they're located. But, you know, we encourage folks to be neighborly. It's your neighborhood that is affected if you have a fire and we can't find the fire hydrant. So please make sure that you clear a 3-foot diameter section around your fire hydrant. And if you have neighbors that can't do that, do the neighborly thing and get out there and help them with that.
That hasn't been an issue the last couple of years because we have had fairly light snowfalls, but
Correct.
there are years when we get the big storms and the fire hydrants get completely covered. So let's not delay those fire departments if they should happen to need it.
Yes, sir.
The only other thing that I have before we go to citizens to be heard is we do have a vacancy on our zoning hearing board for an alternate. Am I correct?
I think it's an alternate.
Yes. So for those who may be interested in serving, please notify the supervisors, and we'll try to get someone appointed to that position. Citizens to be heard. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 10:34. We're adjourned.
You're watching the Millcreek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.